Good evening and welcome to the Jeremiah Patterson Show. What a day it has been in the news. Markets are back up after Donald Trump reversed course on his nonsensical tariff policy, which began trade wars with over 70 nations for no reason. Despite Trump backing down, Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee posted this video trolling him. The market's going up and down as Trump talks about bringing grocery prices down and restoring the economy. Yeah, none of that is happening right now. So, just craziness. Ironically, though, it was before that same committee today that after nearly 4 hours of defending Trump's disastrous tariff policy and saying how they're actually good for America, Trump's trade representative learned, like all of us did, by tweet, that he actually reversed course and instituted a 90-day pause. This was his live reaction to that news. Democratic Congressman Stephen Horsford essentially poking fun at him with this caption here, quote, "What it looks like when you're the country's trade representative testifying before Congress and you find out Trump changed his mind on tariffs. This is reckless governing. There is no strategy, and it's obvious this is amateur hour." And I will say it was that same Congressman, Stephen Horsford, that actually grilled him today and asked him after that news broke, did you know about this before it happened?
Mr. Trade Representative, are you aware that the tariffs have been paused?
I am, yes.
When were you made aware of that?
Well, I understood the decision was made a few minutes ago.
Sitting here.
Under discussion.
Sitting here, under discussion. So did you know that this was under discussion, and why did you not include that as part of your opening remarks?
So typically what I don't do is divulge the contents of my discussions with
What are the
President
details of the
Congress.
pause?
Well, my understanding is that because so many countries have decided not to retaliate, we're going to have about 90 days.
No, excuse me? China increased their tariffs on the United States. Trump blinked.
What's the blink, sir?
What do you know about this pause? What are the details of it?
Well, the details, as I understand it, is that China continues to retaliate. Other countries didn't retaliate. The president 2 or 3 days ago said we wanted to negotiate with those countries that asked for meetings. That's what we're doing.
What are the
We've
details? How long is the pause? How many days? How many weeks?
I understand it's 90 days. I haven't spoken to the president since I've been in
So the
this
trade
hearing.
representative hasn't spoken to the president of the United States about a global reordering of trade.
Yes, I have.
And
I've just been in the hearing with you, sir.
But yet he announced it on a tweet? WTF? Who's in charge?
The president of the United States is in charge.
And what do you know about those details?
Well, as I mentioned,
It looks like your boss just pulled the rug out from under you and paused the tariffs, the taxes on the American people. There's no strategy. You just found out 3 seconds ago sitting here. We saw you.
we've been discussing a
If
variety
you
of these
came
actions
here
for-
knowing that you were going to be turned off, that these tariffs were going to be turned off, why didn't you include that in your opening statement? Why didn't you reference that as part of your testimony?
Well, I don't disclose my conversations with the president, sir.
These were specific questions we asked you all along. What's the strategy? These are real consequences for the American people and small businesses. I had a group of small businesses in my office earlier today talking about the impacts of these tariffs on aluminum and steel. This is amateur hour, and it needs to stop. What does this even mean for your negotiating strategy? How are you in charge of negotiation if the president is tweeting about this from wherever the hell he is?
The president was elected, and he runs the trade policy, and I advise him and execute his
Who
trade
executes
policy.
the trade policy?
I execute the trade
Did you
policy
know
with the president.
that this was happening?
We have been discussing all kinds of
And there's another
options.
member of the cabinet, Bessent, who just canceled coming to the Hill to avoid talking about the market because it's in turmoil. This in just days because there was no strategy, there was no plan. The president chose to take actions that he didn't even have the authority to take. He's put our economy in disarray and near collapse. We have small businesses and Americans who are concerned about their well-being, people's retirement, people's 529 accounts went down because of this administration. We have people that are planning to send their kids to college this fall. People who are retiring whose benefits have declined. Is this market manipulation?
No.
Why not? If it was a plan, if it was always the plan, how is this not market manipulation?
It's not market manipulation, sir.
Well, then what is it? Because it sure is not a strategy.
We're trying to reset the global trade system.
You're,
that has offshored all of our factories.
And what has that done?
How
have you achieved any of that? But to enact enormous harm on the American people, which was our concern from the very beginning. Tariffs are a tool. It can be used in the appropriate way to protect U.S. jobs and small businesses. But that's not what this does. So if it's not market manipulation, what is it? Who's benefiting? What billionaire just got richer? And all the while, there are not even any Republicans left in this hearing. They all left because they don't even want to defend this. But meanwhile, the Speaker is rushing to the floor to pass a budget reconciliation to screw America by passing the biggest tax cut in history on the backs of the American people. WTF? Who's in charge? Because it sure doesn't look like it's the trade representative. You just got the rug pulled out from under you. I wish I could feel some empathy, but the empathy I have is for the American people whose very well-being and livelihoods are being affected. This is not a game. This is real life.
You just found out. Once again, just scolding him there, asking essentially, what is going on exactly? What literally is going on in the U.S. government that you are Donald Trump's trade representative and you're essentially in charge of advising the president on trade in this country, and you're sitting there like you don't know what just happened or you didn't know. If you truly believe that that guy sitting there knew that Trump was he literally was sitting there like he didn't know, and he was just shocked, just as all of us, trying to find some way to defend Trump's reversal on this. Because of course, in his opening statement, he mentioned nothing about there being a 90-day pause. You can literally see his live reaction. Apparently, he learned, like all of us did, at the same time that there was going to be a 90-day pause. But of course, the grillings of this trade representative, Donald Trump's trade representative, was not just today. It was also yesterday in the Senate. These were some highlights from that hearing, which were just absolutely incredible.
If Congress doesn't stand up to Trump, economists predict a recession before the end of the year. And Fed Chair Jerome Powell says we're in a real danger of, quote, both higher unemployment and higher inflation. Translation, Trump's tariffs will push millions of workers out of jobs and push prices up at the same time. So, Ambassador Greer, we've heard a lot of conflicting statements about whether these tariffs are here to stay, how many more rounds of on-off we're going to do. So let me ask the question from a different perspective. Ambassador Greer, we lost 700,000 jobs each month in the last recession. If 700,000 Americans lose their jobs, will the Trump administration suspend these tariffs?
Senator, I think the economists who are making these projections, who often are in favor of fully unfettered free trade, are the same ones who said in the first Trump term that putting tariffs is something that's going to happen.
Let me just stop you there. I'm not asking about projections. I'm asking if the numbers show that 700,000 people have lost their jobs because of these new tariffs that Trump has slapped on. Will the administration reverse course and lift those tariffs?
Senator, that's not going to happen. We've lost 5 million manufacturing jobs over the years, which is the number I'm most worried about, and we have to get those jobs
back. So
I
take that as a no. Let me try another one. Moody's says that if the Trump tariffs remain in place, we will definitely plunge into a recession, which will ultimately cost 3.5 million Americans their jobs. So, Ambassador Greer, if Trump's tariffs push 3.5 million people out of work, will the Trump administration reverse course and lift those tariffs?
Senator, the Wall Street analysts are wrong. They never want to have any kind of
I'm not
change to the
asking if
status
they're
quo.
right or
But that's who
wrong.
you're quoting to me,
I'm giving
Senator.
you a number. If the number is 3.5 million, if it never comes to pass, you don't have to worry about your answer. But if 3.5 million people lose their jobs because of these tariffs, is the Trump administration prepared to lift them?
Right now, this minute, we're working on negotiations with countries who believe they can achieve reciprocity with us and get their trade deficit down. And that's the emergency we're focused on. There's not going to be a situation where years from now we've lost millions of jobs.
Let me try one more time. If Trump tariffs push workers out of their jobs and raise prices, as Fed Chair Powell has predicted, will you reverse course then?
I think also with respect to Chairman Powell, who I don't know personally, but I know the president makes decisions on trade, and he rarely takes advice from Chairman Powell on this. We found in Trump 1 that you could put tariffs on China and you could make it work and have lower lower unemployment, lower inflation, and increase real median household income over time as we reshore. And that's what we have to do, Senator.
What I'm hearing you say is that no one can hear a rhyme or reason to why the tariffs are off again, on again, off again, on again. But what you're telling us is the fact that hundreds of thousands, even millions of people could lose their jobs and that prices could go up will not be a factor for you or for Donald Trump for rolling those tariffs back. Look, if Republicans are serious about protecting American jobs and fighting inflation, then they can join Democrats right now to pass a resolution to fix Trump's reckless tariffs. This economy is teetering on the edge of collapse. We have the power right here in the Senate and over in the House of Representatives to take this authority away from Donald Trump. We can get this voted on. Senator Wyden and I have already are about to introduce the bill to do that. And if Republicans are serious about not playing the red light, green light with tariffs, but instead about protecting our economy, our families, our jobs, and keeping prices low, then Republicans should join us on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Once again, officials in Congress absolutely grilling Donald Trump's trade representative there as he once again is failing to answer these questions. If millions of people, if 700,000 people are going to lose their jobs, are you then going to pause the tariffs? Think about this for a second. Donald Trump inherited a great economy from Joe Biden, which we are barely getting to experience. A fantastic economy. The reason why prices were so high is literally because corporations were price gouging. There was corporate price gouging. Also, the inflation left over from Donald Trump's disastrous handling of the pandemic, which caused that to slide into Biden's administration. That's why the economy was bad. And so you're dealing with this crisis now where Donald Trump was handed a great economy by Joe Biden, and now this is happening. And yes, as Senator Elizabeth Warren and other officials have previously said there, Congress does have the power to take Donald Trump's tariff power away. But Republicans are trying to avoid that. This is new reporting from The Guardian. Literally today, it says, you can see the headline there, Republicans trying to change rules to avoid House vote on Trump's tariffs. Proposed procedural change would shield Republican representatives from having to vote on chaotic trade policy. Quote, Republicans are quietly pushing a procedural rule that would curb the power of the U.S. Congress to override Donald Trump's chaotic tariff policy. The House Representative Rules Committee on Wednesday approved a measure that would forbid the House from voting on legislation to overturn the president's recently imposed taxes on foreign imports. The slate of hand was embedded in procedural rule legislation setting up debate on a separate issue, the budget resolution that is central to Trump's agenda. If adopted, the rule would in effect stall until October, a Democratic effort to force a floor vote on a resolution disapproving of the national emergency that Trump declared last week to justify the tariffs. This mirrors a similar tactic used previously to shield Trump's earlier tariffs. The move came as Trump announced a major reversal on Wednesday with a 90-day pause on tariffs for most countries while raising them to 125% for China. Despite concerns that Republicans were set to endorse another potential expansion of presidential power, Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, asserted the tariffs were an America First policy that required space to be effective. End quote. So Congress has the power to stop Trump from instituting these disastrous tariffs that are causing the stock markets to go up and down and causing people to lose, money in their 401ks, causing people to lose literally their funds. Congress has the power to stop this. But once again, House Republicans are so inclined here to give it away because they don't want to have to, come to the floor and to have a vote forced on this to directly vote against Donald Trump here. And today, now that the tariffs were reversed, the White House essentially is celebrating like this is something normal and that the United States is dominant and that we forced other countries, essentially, we bullied other countries into making a trade agreement because they've been ripping off the United States for decades. That's not what's happening here. We literally look like a joke. Prices are going to continue to go up and down. We're headed toward a recession. And what's happening here essentially is that, yes, there was a 90-day pause here, but China was excluded from this 90-day pause. There is now a 125% tariff on China. And China has responded by saying starting tomorrow, starting Thursday, April 10th, there is going to be a 84% tariff on all goods, essentially, from China to the United States. Quote, if the United States insists on further escalating its economic and trade restrictions, China has the firm will and abundant means to take necessary countermeasures and fight to the end, the Ministry of Commerce wrote in a statement. End quote. According to reporting from the Boston Globe, quote, also earlier Wednesday, EU members voted to approve retaliatory tariffs on $23 billion in goods in response to Trump's previous 25% tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. The EU's counter tariffs will come in stages, with some arriving April 15th and others on May 15th and December 1st. The Executive Commission didn't immediately specify which goods would be affected, end quote. So every other country, get this, I want you to get this very loud and clear here. Because yes, there was a 90-day tariff pause instituted today. But what's not being talked about, what they're trying to essentially hide from you, is the fact that there literally is a 10% tariff still on over 70 countries. There's still a 10% tariff for these 90 days. Prices are still going to go up. This is still a trade war, but Trump essentially is going to take credit for doing this great thing and bringing the economy back when nothing actually went wrong with it happening in the first place. This graph perfectly encapsulates what Donald Trump is doing. Start a problem, fix the fake problem even though there was nothing wrong, get celebrated for the fake problem, and then start another problem. That's literally what's happening here. Now we are back to Biden's economy, which still is taking hits because there is a 10% tariff on over 70 nations for no reason. We are starting inexplicable, nonsensical trade wars with countries that we literally don't need to start trade wars with because we are fine. Tariffs are good for no one. Also, if you start a trade war with a country and you institute infinitely, exponentially high tariffs on that country, they're just going to go to another country for business. They do not need the United States. That's literally what happened back in the 1930s when President Herbert Hoover did the same thing against the advice of economists. They literally just went to other countries for business. That's literally what happens. But one of the things that has been high on the list today when we are talking about these tariffs is literally the concept of market manipulation. What exactly happened? Because is it true that the trade representative speaking before Congress today was truly caught off guard about what happened? Or did something more sinister happen that he knew and that other people in the administration knew, and that this literally was market manipulation? And now Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren is calling for an investigation into if market manipulation was at play here. Because that, of course, is something that is illegal. Who knew about it? And if they did, what exactly is going to happen next? Because hours before Donald Trump announced a 90-day pause, he said, it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to buy in the stock market. We call that insider trading here in the United States. Market manipulation, to benefit friends, to benefit others. Who specifically knew that there was going to be this 90-day pause before Donald Trump announced it? Watch, this is Senator Elizabeth Warren on the floor of the U.S. Senate earlier today.
Donald Trump is trashing our economy. First, Donald Trump imposed across-the-board tariffs. Then, just a few hours ago, he dropped those tariffs to 10% on everyone and moved the tariffs up to 125% on China. up from 105% yesterday. Now, there's confusion, there's chaos. No one knows what the tariffs will be tomorrow or the next day or next week or next month. But here's what we do know. Are prices still going up? Yes. Are businesses still wary about investing? Yes. Are millions of working people still worried about their jobs and millions of small businesses still worried about closing shop? Yes. And right before Donald Trump declared that some of his tariffs were off again, he sent out a message to his billionaire buddies. He posted, "This is a great time to buy," in all caps. Was that market manipulation? Was it corruption in plain sight? We need an independent investigation into market manipulation because Americans need to know whether President Trump or anyone in his administration manipulated the market to benefit their donors, all while they are working for the American people and while small businesses and those working families are paying a price. It's a disaster. But here's the thing. Republicans in Congress have a chance to stop him right now. If they do nothing, they, along with Trump, are responsible for the fallout. Congress could end this dangerous trade war right now by passing my bipartisan resolution with Senator Ron Wyden to turn off the fake emergency authority that Donald Trump is using to impose his worldwide and chaotic tariffs. So I have a simple question for the Senate. Why aren't we passing this resolution this instant?
So once again, that is from Senator Elizabeth Warren here, essentially calling into question here, was there market manipulation? Was that something that exactly happened today? A very serious question, raising the points that exactly needs to be answered. There does need to be an investigation into this. I will just say something else that is deeply disturbing that is going to happen. A little bit of some major news is that Donald Trump is announcing tariffs, of course, on pharmaceuticals. That was included in that Boston Globe article, but he also is going to announce tariffs on pharmaceuticals, saying here, quote, "We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals. Once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market." It is diametrically enraging that Donald Trump is in the White House, first and foremost, I will say. I'm going to be a bit unplugged here off script. It's diametrically enraging that Donald Trump is back into the White House. But what also is extremely enraging here is the fact that the President of the United States is announcing here a nonsensical, inexplicably high tariff on now pharmaceuticals as well. Remember, the Biden administration was able to bring down the prices essentially for pharmaceuticals here in the United States, for prices of drugs in the United States, for insulin and other prices and other, drugs that people need to survive in this country. The Trump administration is like, well, screw that. We're going to put tariffs on that too, because of course we got to bring that product back here. Most of what's here in the United States is made in other countries. For instance, cars. Yes, you cannot fully make a car in the United States because certain parts of that car are going to come from other countries. I'm tired of trying to explain to people that tariffs are bad. There is no justification for this. There is no financial justification for this. Nothing about this is good. People are going to lose money. People are going to lose their 401ks. People are going to lose their jobs. We are headed toward a recession. People are going to be hurting, and now you're going to put tariffs essentially on pharmaceuticals, on drugs in this country, on people's medications, on their livelihoods to survive. That is not going to benefit anybody. People are going to die. People are going to die from what's happening here. People are not going to be able to afford groceries. They're not going to be able to afford rent, as it's already astronomically high in this country. People are not going to be able to afford life. For anybody that voted for Trump and you're telling yourself that what he's doing to the economy is great, keeping my composure here. There are expletives that I could say on this show, but I will hold myself. Donald Trump is unilaterally screwing the United States economy for absolutely no freaking reason. and all of it is just crashing down and burning to the ground. We are putting tariffs on things that do not need to. Oh my gosh. Imagine what it's going to be like to have tariffs on people's medication. Prices are going to skyrocket. Follow here on the Jeremiah Patterson Show, your place for independent news, updates on all things politics and history. You can follow us on Blue Sky and Substack at tjpsnews. Dear God, bless us all. You can also support us financially if you're interested in that, because this is independent news, so we do rely on your donations to continue this crucial work in terms of investigative journalism for our special reports and exclusives. These are the ways to support us financially. Anybody watching here, bless you. If you voted for Vice President Kamala Harris, if you voted for Donald Trump, I have no sympathy for you. This is completely on you. You caused this as well. And apparently a lot of people there are people in the MAGA movement that are shocked this is happening. There are people in the MAGA movement that are celebrating that this is happening like maniacs. There are people in the MAGA movement that are shocked and also essentially reversing course, retracting their support for Donald Trump when you literally installed the idiot in the White House, and now this is happening, directly affecting your accounts, your retirement accounts, directly affecting your life savings, directly affecting how you live as a citizen in this country who is most likely in the middle class, and now you are suffering as a result of your own doing, and now you're trying to find sympathy among others when you did this to yourself. So honestly, people, wake up. There is no sympathy for anybody who voted for Donald Trump that literally thinks that these tariffs are a good idea, because do note this, after these 90 days are over, there is going to be a continuous, incessant flip-flop. This is not going to end. The markets are going to go down again, then they're going to come back up, then they're going to go down again, then they're going to come back up. And you're doing flip-flop on and off tariffs, red light, green light, red light, green light. What happens here is the markets, other countries still have to react to that. Okay, we're going to put tariffs in place, now we have to retract the tariffs. Prices are going to skyrocket, then come back down. Skyrocket, come back down. That is financially unstable for people's livelihoods. That is financially unstable for small businesses. That is financially and fiscally irresponsible for you to do as the president of the United States. And then for you to sit there as a trade representative and just act like, oh, well, everything's going to be perfectly fine. You know, 3 million people lose their jobs. Well, I guess it sucks for them. We're just not going to pull back the tariffs. We are headed toward a recession, economists predict. JP Morgan Chase and other banks are predicting. This benefits nobody here, except the billionaires, of course. But you know, even they're losing money as the markets are going back up and down. We are screwed. That's all I have to say. We're screwed.